A midlife crisis is more than just a cultural stereotype. It's a real psychological struggle that can surface between the ages of 40 and 60. Often triggered by aging, loss, or unmet expectations, it can actually lead individuals to question their identity, make impulsive choices, or abruptly abandon long term commitments. While not officially classified yet as a mental illness, the emotional and relational fallout is very real, especially for the spouses and families left behind. This podcast gives voice to those living through the aftermath, exposing the hidden pain, and seeking accountability, healing, and understanding. Thank you for joining us today on MLC Bomb Drop and Beyond. The stories and events discussed in this podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered legal, medical, or professional advice. Any names, locations, or identifying details have been changed to protect privacy. Any similarities to actual persons, living or dead, or real events are purely coincidental. The information presented on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. Always consult with a qualified expert regarding any decisions related to your specific situation. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the podcast creators. Hey, you guys, thanks for joining me today on Midlife Crisis, Bomb Drop and Beyond. You know, midlife crisis is not just cruelty, it's absolute suffering. These individuals that are going through the crisis are in a level of internal pain that most people simply cannot imagine. That pain is real. It's overwhelming. It's terrifying. But their pain does not excuse destruction. They are still burning down marriages, traumatizing their children. They still annihilate the person who stood beside them for decades. And what's heartbreaking, you guys, is that they are not trying to be monsters. They're trying to outrun them. They're trying to outrun their own internal monsters. But in the process, they lose themselves and everyone who loved them. And that's what we'll talk about today on Bomb Drop and Beyond. This is crazy. I've been watching The Beast in Me. It's a new series on Netflix. I'm just loving it totally. And Claire Danes said something, I think it was in episode 3 or 4, that stopped me cold. She's sitting there writing a book about what we're going to discover as a monster murderer. But anyway, she's writing this, and she talks about the monster inside of us, the villain we try to slay, and how the real terror begins when the villain is gone, because then we're finally forced to face ourselves. And Bomb Squad, that is exactly what happens in a midlife crisis. I had closed captioning on too, so I was reading what she was writing, and as she's saying it and writing it, and I'm reading it and hearing it, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this sounds like somebody in midlife crisis. Just sort of that whole villain and the beast within. So it got me thinking, they say every human carries a shadow, shame, regrets, fears, insecurities, ego wounds, unprocessed trauma, the terror of aging, the fear of mortality. Most people face it slowly over years. It's normal. A little reflection here, a little growth there. But an MLCer? When the beast wakes up, they run. And in their panic, they assign their inner monster to the nearest person. And that is you. We have all discovered what it's like to be the spouse of somebody going through a midlife crisis or an adjustment disorder. But anyway, you are the nearest person, you, the spouse, the one who loved them, the one who stayed, the one who's loyal. However, in their frame of mind, they cannot tolerate the mirror that you hold up. Because when you hold up the mirror, they're looking directly at themselves. So they make you the villain to avoid looking at themselves. just like she's writing in this movie. Here's the psychological sequence. Internal shame or crisis hits. Their sense of identity collapses. The monster rises. They start to panic and they project the monster onto you. You become the cause of everything wrong inside of them. Suddenly, we, the spouse, we are blamed for their sadness. We're blamed for their lost youth, their dissatisfaction, their emptiness, their failures. Obviously, not because it's true, but because facing the truth inside would totally destroy them. Next up, they have the affair partner. Not a soulmate, not a savior. Obviously, not their great love, but the affair partner is a shield, a total escape hatch, a distraction, a fantasy, a chemical high, and a place that they can hide from the mirror. They put on the hero costume. The AP is out there in the cheering section, rooting them on. But the costume always slips because the beast inside doesn't die. It waits. And eventually, it demands to be faced. And this is the moment that Claire Danes was really talking about, because once the MLCer escapes the marriage, destroys the relationship, blames you, runs to the affair partner, they burn bridges, they build a fantasy life, but then what? Well, when all distractions are gone, they finally meet their monster, just like she says in the series. And this is the real beginning of the tunnel. Not the affair, not the rage, not the discard. The true tunnel begins when they can no longer run. And it's absolutely crazy and mind-boggling to me to think that I could be with somebody who I see one, like you see one thing. It's like, I guess, looking at actually, this happened to me the other day. I bought some Cracker Jacks. And lo and behold, some of the boxes are empty. Actually, one box had no prize and no Cracker Jacks. That was a real bummer, because that was the box I was gonna eat. But anyway, you know, sometimes being married to somebody who's in MLC is like buying an empty box of Cracker Jacks. The box looks great. It's got that little teaser saying, "Ooh, prize inside." It's got the caramel corn, popcorn thing, the little nuts, cute little boy captain, whatever it is on it. But anyway, Cracker Jacks look awesome from the outside. Um, but man, who would expect to open a box and find nothing inside? No prize, no peanuts, no caramel popcorn, nothing, nada, just empty paper. You know what? Again, that's like being married to somebody in MLC. They look great on the outside, but then there's nothing inside. It's just all a front. You were never the villain. You were the mirror. You reflected their aging, their fragility, their unfulfilled dreams. Every time they looked at you, they had that hidden pain of unfulfilled dreams, suppressed traumas, and they hated what they saw. So they made you the problem. And psychologically, mentally, I don't know how this happens, but it does. And let me share something personal here because it shows what a mind in crisis is capable of when it cannot face itself. One night during my ex's free fall, he handed me a large knife and asked me to put him out of his misery. I was like, what? But that's how tormented he was and how shocked and terrified I was, standing there after several decades of marriage, watching the man I knew and loved dissolve right in front of me. And then not long after, he accused me of cutting his neck. And that accusation became part of the story he started to tell. But couple months later, I found the actual razor he had used on himself. And let me be clear, the accusation didn't even make physical sense. He's over 6 feet tall, former football player, more than 200 pounds. I'm 5'4", possible MS, who knows, breast cancer. I would have had to jump to reach his neck. But guys, that is what projection looks like. When someone is being devoured internally, they will point to anyone and say, this is the reason, this is the villain. They point out their spouses as the villain, and so they can be the victim. It is impossible, absolutely heart-wrenching and impossible for them to face the truth in the mirror. And just like in my case, and just like in this movie, it's easier to cast somebody else as the villain than to confront the beast inside themselves. And you know what's wild? This pattern is ancient. Shakespeare wrote about it centuries ago. Centuries, you guys. Modern films are full of it. Humanity has always run from the inner monster. Othello, Othello's insecurity becomes Desdemona's betrayal. His internal fear, he blamed it on his wife. This is Projection 101 MLC. Macbeth, the spiral. Macbeth's guilt and ambition create a monster inside him. He destroys everyone he loves just to avoid facing himself. Again, MLC tunnel in a crown. Hamlet, total identity collapse. Hamlet is emotionally paralyzed. His inner war becomes outer destruction. Just like MLC, the spouse becomes collateral damage in someone else's internal meltdown. Then we've got King Lear, rejecting love and choosing flattery. King Lear pushes away the loyal daughter and embraces the flatterers. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. Then we've got, current films like The Affair, textbook midlife crisis, self-hatred, affair partner fantasy, projection, and destruction. And this has been going on for centuries. What do these stories tell us? Well, it's pretty clear. They tell us the monster isn't new, the crisis isn't new, projection isn't new. Humanity has always turned inward pain into outward destruction. Midlife crisis is just a modern retelling. I tell you, the most dangerous enemy isn't the one they fight, it's the one inside of them. MLC is the war between who they were, who they are, and who they're afraid to become. And healing only begins when someone finally stops running and turns inward. Facing the monster is the only way out. And as much as we talk about the destruction they cause, we cannot ignore this truth. MLC is agony. These people are not having fun. They are not living their best life. They are absolutely drowning. The internal torment is so intense, they will do anything to escape it. They don't destroy their lives and relationships because they want to. They do it because they can't stop themselves. And that is the tragedy of midlife crisis. The person in crisis suffers deeply. It is hell for them going through it. They're not confident. They're not empowered. They're not awakening. They are in pain so severe that they will burn down their own life just to feel something other than the terror inside. Can you imagine living like that? And just like Shakespeare showed us, the tragedy is they don't just destroy themselves, they destroy the people who love them the most. This isn't freedom, it's collapse. It's a person in such deep psychological torment that they will sacrifice their family, they will sacrifice their integrity, they will sacrifice their identity, absolutely anything just to escape the monster inside. And that is the tragedy, ancient and modern day, of midlife crisis. If this episode gave you clarity, validation, share it with someone who needs it. You guys remember, here's the deal. Midlife crisis is not about escaping you, their beloved spouse. Midlife crisis is about escaping themselves. When a person cannot face the monster inside, they turn the person closest to them into the villain. And it's horrible, but just remember, you have survived it and you can go on. Stay strong, stay awesome out there. And thanks for joining us today on MLC, Bomb Drop, and Beyond. Hey, some resources that are available for you guys are thewifeexpert.com. That's Lori McDermott over there at thewifeexpert.com. She also has a new app out. There's tons of videos that can give you all kinds of information on no matter where you are on your MLC journey or trying to reconcile with your spouse. So check out thewifeexpert.com. And if you're not sure if your spouse or yourself is in maybe approaching or in a midlife crisis, be sure to check out Kenda Root's quiz at midlifecrisismarriageadvocate.com. Again, that's a midlifecrisismarriageadvocate.com. That's a quick little 2-minute quiz. It's free. So check that out as well. We have a ton of resources out there for you guys. So check them out. Thanks. You guys, forward moving spouses, you are not alone. Left behind spouses, you are not alone. Those in crisis, you are certainly not alone. This is just crazy how epidemic this has become. I have a waiting list now of people from around the world that I'm trying to get to. And if you've been through a midlife crisis or been impacted by someone else's and you want to share your story, I'd love to hear from you. Hang in there, you guys. I will get to all of you. Please reach out to me at mlcbombdrop@gmail.com and visit us on Facebook and Instagram, MLC Bomb Drop. And just remember, your voice matters. Your story could be the one that helps someone else feel seen. It could help someone else feel heard. And you know, it will help somebody else feel understood. You are not alone, no matter where you are in your journey. If the bomb was just dropped, the earthquake just happened, if you are 7 or 8 years in and you're coming out of starting to wake up and awaken to this, you are not alone. It's sad that this is epidemic, but we're here to provide support. So until next time, take care and live authentically each and every day. Thanks again, you guys.